let's talk Mosdos literature once again. If you're new here, I'm Nickie. I'm a homeschool mom to an only child in 3rd grade. I have done a couple videos on Mosdos literature, however you want to say it. I absolutely love this curriculum. It is probably the first time I've ever really truly felt so much love for a curriculum, and that has been working so great in our homeschool. But I've always had one con for me that has lacked with this, is that this curriculum does not have any sort of daily plan like laid out for me in a way where it's easy to go, okay, day 1 do this, day 2 do this, day 3 do this, etc. But an amazing subscriber of mine informed me of a 9-month-old YouTube video from Rainbow Resources, who has come up with a daily plan that looks like it's going to work perfectly in our schedule. So I want to share that with you. I want to spread the word on people who are loving Mosdos just like us. So if that is something that interests you, please keep watching. I'm in a new setting. This is my bedroom. It's kind of like a bedroom / my office space, but I needed somewhere quiet, and currently that is the space. I also have new glasses, in case you didn't notice. I'm not sure how I feel about them. They're very bold and they're square, which I'm usually a cat eye kind of girl. So we'll see. Let me know. Do you like it? I'm always curious, but anyway, be kind. Here it is. I literally just took a screenshot off of the YouTube video. And this is the lovely lady who is talking all about the curriculum, or the company. So she came up with this awesome plan. I'm assuming she did. I also didn't know that. I just want to throw out there, if you ever buy or purchase something through Rainbow Resource, or if you're even looking through Rainbow Resources, they have a completely free to use service where you can call or you can reach out to the company free of charge and ask for advice. You could say, hey, I'm really looking into this curriculum. You can ask questions. You can ask to see if there's some sort of plan for the curriculum, scope and sequence, those kinds of questions. And they will help you. So definitely, if you utilize that website, check that out, because I didn't know that. And now I'm like, they're going to wish they didn't have that option. Anyways, so let's talk. We've kind of, because I haven't had this schedule, I've kind of come up with my own schedule, which it's worked for this year. Don't get me wrong. But it's not necessarily great. And I'm not talking about the curriculum, just the schedule itself and how I am incorporating it into our days. So as of right now, or even just this whole year, we've only been utilizing it 1 day a week, because we were still doing other language arts components that were taking up a lot of time. And so I felt like there's so much to this Mosdos curriculum, and I was literally using it as a tool. But I think I can do just so much more with it. And I'm so glad that this schedule came in play. So I want to be able to utilize this curriculum 4 days a week. And this plan is going to give me that. But to show you what we've been doing, in case it might work for you, if you only want to do it once a week, is every, so this is the teacher's manual. And I've done videos and flip throughs on these before, so you can look back into my history. I'll try to link some down below. I'm not going to do that today, but I'm going to walk you through it. So every in between story time. So this is a story, but this is a lesson in literature story. So this is literally a 2-page story, and that's it. It is discussing and kind of pre-diving into the literature story that's coming. And so it's going to have questions. It's going to have how so much pre-work. It's going to have the vocabulary listed for the upcoming story. It's going to have your skills, your strategies, your workbook pages, and kind of prep you for the story to come. So on days that she is doing the lesson in literature, she was writing out her vocabulary words in her vocabulary notebook. I was taking a picture of the words on my page and just printing it out for her so that she could easily copy that. And then she would read the lesson in literature story and answer any of the questions that were listed. They always have think about it questions. And so she was filling that out on a separate paper, and then she would be done. This was taking place on Tuesdays where I am at work all day because I needed something to fill in that I knew she could do independently. The following Tuesday, then she would dive into the actual story, which is foods on the table. And so there's a bunch of different components to this, but I wasn't having her do any of that, and I was having her just go straight to the story. And so then she would read the entire story and then complete the workbook pages that went with the story. So the workbook pages have more or less the same type of things. It starts out with vocabulary, fill in the blank type things. There's 2 activities for vocabulary. Then it goes more about the story. It has some type of language art activity component, how the character feels. Then it has a graphic organizer section as well, and then that would complete that story. There is no workbook pages that correlate to the lesson in literature stories, so we only use the workbook every 2 weeks then. But as you could see, that's a lot of workbook pages per one story, so I never knew how to break it up. Plus, she's reading that whole story, and the stories can range like 15-ish pages for the whole story. Now, some might not have like full page text. It could be like half a page or a really big picture on a page, but still, that's a lengthy thing. So with this schedule, so I'm going to show you an example of a lesson in literature and go from there. So on Monday, this is what it wants us to do for Monday. On Monday, it wants us to review the vocabulary. And by doing that, I'm going to pull the vocabulary in my teacher's manual, either discuss it, have her write it in a notebook, something like that. Then we're going to do the vocabulary activity, which is listed in our workbook here, okay? Wide, dark, sea. There's 2 vocabulary activities always in the workbook. So we're going to either pick one or do both. Again, use this as a tool. You don't have to do it all, or you can do it all. It's totally up to you and what you decide to do in your homeschool. Then we're going to read the lessons in literature, which is this 2-page in the student textbook, which it's in the teacher's manual too, but this is in color. We're going to read the lesson in literature, and then we're going to discuss what is the main idea and the think about it questions. This is Monday. That's it. On Tuesday, it has us doing the blueprint for reading, okay? So every time you're about to start a story, a literature story, like the full story, they have this like blueprint for reading, which is kind of like the synopsis sort of, and and it ties into like kind of the pre part of the story. And then we're going to focus on this eyes on the main idea. What is a main idea? A story has a main idea, and you know, it kind of goes into comparing it to the story we're about to read. Then we're going to read the actual story aloud. So this is a beautiful colored, I mean, they're all colored, but we have lots of story pages for this book. So as she reads through the book, I will stop her and I will ask her, you know, even before we necessarily read, or we could read and ask the questions. It's kind of how your flow is most important. But there's this like getting started section in the manual. So you're going to talk about, it's going to talk about how we're introducing this story, the questions. And then it wants us to utilize the literary highlights, right? So that's not in the student book, but that's in mine book, right? So literary highlights, or like the components, is up here for me. So I would be discussing what exposition and contrast in theme is and relating that to the story. And then as we read, we have these literal and analytical questions almost on every page. So I could be doing that as well. There are tons of literary components and tons of guided reading questions. So that is, as we're reading, you know, that's what I would just be doing. Now, my daughter doesn't necessarily like to stop during the book and answer questions. So I would be waiting to the very end to have these. I would pull the most like important questions and do that, because she's not going to let me stop her at this point. Now, when we get to the end, there's always a little tidbit about the author. Sometimes we read it, sometimes we don't. But on the very end of this, it always has a poem. So this is still on Tuesday. This is a big day. So we would read the poem and discuss the studying the selection. So that's going to be next on this page, where it goes into reviewing the focus, and then there's like a creating and writing component. We have never done that before. I'm not sure if we're going to do that, but we would focus on like the review and stuff like that. Then on Wednesday, there's a comprehension activity, which is the in-depth thinking or drawing a conclusion. So that might not be in every grade level. So you have to keep that in mind, as well as this thing that I have pulled might not be something you can utilize in every level, but it was specifically, I think maybe it was doing for the 4th grade. I don't remember correctly, but either way, it's given me a good idea on how to separate things. So on Thursday, which would be our last day of school, because we do not school on Friday, it would be pulling back up our workbook and doing some workbook pages. So that would be more about the story, and then maybe our language arts tie-in about main ideas, or we have this graphic organizer, which is what it's telling us to do on Thursday. And then we're emphasizing the main idea of the story. We're reinforcing the skill and thinking visually about this story. So then that would conclude the workbook. That would conclude the story. You can then tie in anything you really want to. You could have them do a book report. You could stop and just choose to do nothing else. You can have them type something up. You can have them present something, do a craft, or show a visual about the story. There's tons of room to work with here. But this is kind of like the basis where I think I'm going with how I'm going to incorporate that in our 4th grade year. So I know that was a lot. If you do school on Fridays, based on, like I crossed it out because we don't, but based on this, it says you can use it as a test day, a catch-up day, or spread out the workload day. So I think that gives a great starting point, and you can kind of adapt and like move it around as you wish to your homeschool. But I'm really excited. I'm so glad. Thank you so much to whoever let me know about this rainbow resource video, because it was so informative, since this company isn't, you don't hear about it a lot. You don't see things about it, and even on their website doesn't have a lot of information. And it is a very pricey curriculum. So you have, I mean, I think it's well worth the price that you're paying for it, but you have to keep that in mind when some of these components aren't there, because this is technically for schools. But I love it. I have raved about it since I got it, and I'm so glad I came across it. And I hope that if you're looking for like a reading literature program, look into Mosdos. It's Mosdos Literature. You could find them on Rainbow Resource, Christian books, and on the actual Mosdos company, or like eBay, something like that. Like I got my Next Level off eBay, used but new. So yeah, I hope you look forward or look into that, as they do go up, I believe, to 8th grade. So that concludes this video. If you have any questions for me, leave them down below in the comments. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.